ever teach at all? Welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Detroit
everybody.
in black and white. I'm Adolph Mongo. We here at McShane's on Michigan and Trumbull. I really thank Bob Roberts. It's Black History Month. You know, you know what? I have mixed emotions about Black History Month. That we have to just keep reinforcing our history, and because it's American history.
Absolutely.
It is history. But hey, you know what? We got those folks out there that want to erase us. You know, they say it's woke. Yeah, I'm woke. You know, and was those three soldiers, those two ladies and one man that just got killed by the drone in Jordan, were they woke? Yeah, they was woke. So now here we are, Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit.
Hello. Good morning.
Detroit News and Washington Post. By way of Eagle American.
The Eagle American, where Adolph was the editor of the Eagle American paper. He was my boss.
I ain't run no bossing.
You know, I don't believe in that word boss.
I hate that.
I don't like it either.
Ever say anyone is my boss. I always say supervisor or someone that I work with, but no, not a boss. Been on the plantation a long time.
At Deadline Detroit, I when people would introduce themselves, I said, "This is my boss," and I would introduce myself. This is my colleague.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's my employee. I don't believe. I agree with you. I don't like that word boss.
Listen, a few times I had a job. I remember I got hired by Coleman Young as the deputy director of public. Yes, I said Vanessa Moss, shit starter. Yes, I did.
He did not.
Yes, I did.
He did not
yes,
say. Listen,
you're invisible.
No.
You're invisible.
Good morning, everybody.
How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm glad to be back.
Good.
If you are watching this morning, Detroit in Black and White, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. We are on all platforms. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's Instagram. We also have a page, DetroitinBlackandWhite.com, and you can watch all of the episodes. We're here every Saturday, starting at 10 o'clock. If you want to come down and participate, be part of the live audience, that's awesome.
And today on the show, we're going to have an extended version. We're going to talk about, you know, Sinai-Grace. I always joke, but it's no joke. When somebody, I told somebody, if you're gonna, if I get so sick, you're gonna take me to Sinai-Grace, just make a detour and take me to Swanson Funeral Home, because it is in a sad state of affairs. They closed the cancer clinic.
Right.
We're gonna talk about that.
Right.
We got Chief James. Black History Month. We got Chief James Craig, and we got Robert Brown, Attorney Robert Brown. Have him.
Chief Craig.
Yeah, James White. I'm sorry.
James Craig. Oh my gosh, what you doing this morning?
I got coffee. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the chief. He's going to be off the ballot. He's not going to be on the ballot. But we got James White. We got James White.
But who's going to be off the ballot?
James
the former.
Yeah.
What is he booted off the ballot, or
he can't raise any money? And he ain't going to get on the ballot.
There's
is he even really campaigning?
No.
Yeah. So
I mean, if you don't have the money. You don't have the money. It's all about the money.
Okay, let's.
Which means I'm gonna need some money soon, because we will be making an announcement in a couple of months.
And we're gonna.
Hey, where the money reside?
You're not getting any money.
Are you going to run? Are you going to run for office?
I am. I'll make an announcement in a couple of months.
Okay.
I am.
Okay, and we're going to talk about the the life of Lonnie Bates. Deadline ran a obituary, got thousands of hits.
11,000 hits.
And Lonnie was a person, you loved him, you didn't like him, but you couldn't ignore him. You know, and he made an impact in the city.
Well, isn't that, you know what, this is the thing. I was thinking about this yesterday, how, you know, people, especially people in the public eye, they can make some misjudgments, mistakes, or they may not be mistakes. They've done some things that are bad, but that does not make that whole person. We have all sides to us. And so, and he's an example of that. As you said, you know, some people, you know, didn't like him because of a few things that he did. But there was some positive things that he did too, and I think all of us.
I remember when the Free Press wrote an article talking about take the name off of Bates Academy, and I said, okay, if you take the name off of Bates Academy, take it off the cast and all that. You should have seen people calling me, you can't take Cass' name off that. I'm like, man, Cass was the worst. Right. The worst. But anyway, let's get down to the nitty gritty. You know, outrage of the week.
Well, this could probably take a whole conversation, probably a whole show. This morning, you know, I watch a lot of documentaries, but this morning I watched this documentary, and it is called Miami Gentrification, Raising Liberty Square. And the documentary is really about climate gentrification and how in Miami, first of all, Miami was built by Black laborers. These Black laborers were forced to move. They couldn't live on the beachfront because that was reserved for the folks, right? So they had to move into the middle of the city. And so you had a town that was called Colored Town. That's where the laborers lived. But there's also a city called Liberty City. And they have a public housing there, which is called Liberty Square. Now, because of the hurricanes and the eroding of the beach, of Miami Beach, they're now moving. People want to move from that beachfront property, that prime property, and they want to move inward, right? And so what they're doing is, and this is an example of climate gentrification, because of what's going on at the beach, they're moving in, and they're displacing this Black community. Liberty City, there's a place called Liberty Square, which is public housing. And of course, they had this developer there telling them about how they're going to have grocery stores. I hope that our viewers are listening to this, because this is very familiar. This is just a bird's eye view of what's going on all around the country. Detroit, Michigan is a Black city. But I digress. Anyway, so the developers came in. They said, we're building these grocery stores. We're not going to displace anybody. We're going to repurpose these apartments. We're going to make them look really nice, and you can move in. But what they did is they started giving out, a year into the development, they started giving out vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, right? And they always have somebody, even back when we talk about Black History Month, even back in the plantation days, you always got one. You always got one. He grew up in Liberty City. He's working with the developers. Oh, they're not going to move you. And the people are pissed off. The residents are pissed off because now the residents have to move. You have a sister who had a school there. She developed a charter school, right? And she was one of those kids who had a learning disability, didn't learn. I encourage everybody to watch this documentary, because if it happens in a Black community, it can happen in a poor white community, it can happen in a poor brown community. It can happen.
You know what they missed? You know what? I haven't watched the documentary, but you know what's missing? But added to that, Little Haiti. Little Haiti is where most of the Haitian refugees moved to. And I mean, they forced them into this area. You know, nobody wanted to live there. Now, with the water problem, they moving them out because they looked at what's happening in that neighborhood and said, oh, you know, they stable. You know what? And now the people that built these $500,000, $2 million, $3 million condos that collapsed and whatever. Now they like, well, we got to find a safe place. It's like when they moved the Native Americans from Georgia, North Carolina to Oklahoma, and then they found oil on
the. It can happen to any community. It can happen to any community. But anyway, the sister has a school. She wanted to buy this property. They told her she couldn't buy the property at that time. I think it was worth $15,000. Now it's almost $1 million. And of course, the developer came in. My outrage is that this continues to happen. And it continues to happen to the people that are the most disrespected and the people that are the most vulnerable. We're talking about people who are living in public housing. And you're taking their housing away and you wave this dang on voucher in their face. They go somewhere where the landlord can raise the rent. Okay, you stay there for a year. And then they promise the people, well, you know what? You don't have to move. And if you move, you could come back. They'll never come back.
Well, they
had another area called Scott Harbor where that happened in the 1990s in Florida. Those people never came back.
That's Lafayette Park.
That's my outrage.
That's Lafayette Park.
Watch it.
That was Black Bottom. But anyway,
watch it.
We can talk about that. Allan, your outrage.
My outrage is Fannie Willis, the Fulton County prosecutor. I think.
We're about to fight.
Okay. I just think here's a case. I mean, when you're going after big game, you gotta have a clean shot. You gotta be careful. You're under a microscope. These people are gonna come after you if you make the wrong move. And I think she has to be super careful, and that she has got this guy that she's having an affair with, and who and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that he has the experience level.
Police.
No, it's not. They're going to fuck up. They're trying to fuck up the case here, and they're trying to undermine the case, and it's one of the stronger criminal cases.
I was hoping it ain't so that.
So are you saying that we're buying into? Okay, listen. She and that guy made a wrong call. Your personal business, what you doing?
It ain't personal though.
No, what you doing is fine, right?
Yeah.
But I challenge people to not take their eye off the ball.
Right.
But we're allowing it to.
But they're gonna improve. They're gonna kick out of office. They're gonna kick out.
You still have to pursue that case.
I agree. Absolutely. Look, whatever happens, I mean, whether she has to recuse herself or whatever, that case is solid. That case is there.
Recuse herself because.
Well, I don't know.
She gave them the contract. And listen, it's like, remember Carol Mosley Brown?
Yeah.
She ran for the Senate. Smart woman. I liked her. Man, she raised all this money and couldn't find out her campaign manager. They eventually got married. She was paying him $100,000 a month as the campaign manager. Now, you know what? You compensate people for doing the work.
Right.
Stuff. But when people giving you money to run a campaign, if you paying administrative staff more than that you paying for the campaign, that is the problem with that.
And she is a great prosecutor. I mean, when I was reading an article when they said some of the younger prosecutors would come, they say, you want to know how to try a murder case, go sit in her court and watch her.
That's why they did a deep dive on her. They spent over $1 million to do research on her. They followed her. They got her personal stuff, and there she was. The guy was getting a divorce. It's not like she broke his family up. But if he's the main prosecutor, he's going after Donald Trump and all his minions.
Another adulterer. Okay,
Yeah,
that's why I said the morality police get out of here.
Well,
Adulterer,
it's
thief, a
not morality.
liar.
I
mean, he's all these things.
It's political.
And you say he's a criminal. That's what you
absolutely. No, I'm going to tell you this. When I was at the Detroit News,
You hold that
What she
thought.
did, what she
Hold
what
that
she did
thought.
with the criminal?
Hold that thought.
No.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. I'll do my little outrage, and then we're gonna talk about the outrage in Detroit, Sinai-Grace, Detroit Medical Center. That's my outrage. Go ahead, Allan.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
All right, we are back.
Okay, before we go to our first guest, I'm gonna do my outrage. And you know the as a military.
Could you talk up a little bit? 'Cause I can hardly hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Do like Thomas Edison, put that thing over here. Can you hear me? But anyway, my outrage is, you know, all these folks
So
that
you're on-
what? No,
Oh, okay.
we can talk about that later.
Okay.
But my outrage is the three young soldiers that got killed by the drone,
Yeah.
and you got Tommy Tupperville and all these folks talking about
Tuberville.
no, Stupidville. You know, they're talking about people woke. He don't want women to be in charge of anything. He don't want black folks to go to the academy, West Point or the Naval Academy, etc. But my outrage is John James, who went to West Point, who served in Iraq, who, listen, did all the right things, has been silent. Wow.
Are we shocked?
No,
But you should be
I am
outraged.
shocked. I am
Why?
shocked
Why?
because I know his family. I know
Okay.
where he came from. He wasn't raised like that.
Right.
But here he has somebody in his party looking at him and said, you don't supposed to go to West Point. You supposed to be a cook, or you supposed to be shining our shoes or whatever. Here a man in the Senate that made all his money off the backs of black athletes. He gets elected to the Senate, and then he goes crazy. Oh, they not qualified to do this. They not qualified to do that. If somebody, he won an award, Academy Award. They only did it because he was black, and they throw that woke shit out there. I'm woke. I'm woke. I'm woke. And I'm gonna be woke. And that's my outrage. So I'm gonna stay woke. But anyway, Allan.
All right. Are we gonna bring?
Yeah, bring Joe.
All right. We're gonna bring our first guest of the day.
Yeah.
Later, we're gonna have Chief White, James White, not Chief James Craig.
Yeah, well, you know, James is a James.
Right. So, anyways, we have here Joanne King. She is the host of a podcast called Detroit Joe, which I have been on a couple times. And let me, you know what, I'm going to put a little picture here of your podcast there, Detroit Joe. Let's see here. Anyways, she's a retired school teacher, 34 years in the Detroit school system, a graduate of Mumford High School.
Yes.
Living on the Detroit East Side, and we brought her here because she called me up and she told me that she had some medical issues and that she was dealing with them with the DMC and Sinai-Grace, which we've heard a lot about Sinai-Grace, and a lot of it has not been good. Tell us, sort of, get us started here and tell us a little bit about.
I'm gonna tell you how I got there.
All right.
I didn't know that Sinai-Grace had a reputation because all of my doctors were Providence doctors. But my doctors at Providence, they all retired at the same time. But they gave me to other good doctors. But it just happened that they were DMC doctors. Okay. One was my cancer doctor. I've had cancer twice. And you don't switch those types of doctors. So I went to Sinai because of my doctor there and my primary care doctor and my OBGYN. But she has her own office. The other two were in the professional building at Sinai, which is raggedy.
So when you say raggedy, what is
Two
it?
elevators, maybe one is working. One day that they called me and said, if you can't walk up steps, then do not come today.
Wow.
And I said, well, I can't walk up steps. Now I should have thought then something wasn't, right. But it is what that it is. So I had noticed that my ankles and legs were swollen. So I went to my primary care sister at Sinai-Grace. She said, you got to go and take a test because it might be a blood clot. So I went and I took the test, found out that it was water, congestive heart failure.
Wow.
Now I'm still cool with Sinai. I haven't heard nothing bad. I was in the emergency, and the emergency doctor was an African brother, cool, straight. He said, your cancer doctor, I just talked to him, and he said, we are going to take care of you. I said, well, cool, So they drained out the water. I stayed in that emergency room for a whole day plus. Now, this was last year around this time. Most hospitals didn't have COVID patients there in the hallway. They because the numbers were low. But I was cool with it. They found me this a little area where that my gurney was, like it looked like it was the old ICU unit. But I was happy that I had a place. Okay, so they got the water off, and they said, now you got to promise us you're going to go and see your doctor Monday. I said, I promise. So Monday, I call up my doctor, and they say, well, she is gone. I said, gone where? I just saw her three days ago. They said, well, we can't tell you, but she's gone. And I said, you all did something to her. All right. So I get another doctor. I got two old heads because they couldn't figure out where this congested heart failure was actually coming from. So my two doctors are working and running tests, and I make a appointment to see my cancer specialist. They said, he's gone. I said, he's gone. And they sent him more than an hour outside of this city, way out in some county.
Commerce Township.
Commerce, maybe there.
Yeah, I know Sinai-Grace has.
So you're saying they told you that he's no longer there. He's gone somewhere else. And the same with your other doctor.
Yes.
Wow.
They gone. All right. So
and this
now
all happened in how many days?
that happened all within maybe 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. So my two old heads are still working on me. And I called my cancer doctor and I said, I will still come and see you. I didn't know how far it was, but I will still come. Okay, so that was all in like January, February, and the old heads are trying to find out why I had this congestive heart failure when I'm healthy. All right. Then comes July 2nd. This July 2nd, I get up to go to church. My husband goes 30 minutes earlier because he's on the church staff. So I get up, get out of the bed, and my arm is hanging off. I immediately picked up my phone. I said, honey, you got to come home quick. Either I had a stroke or I'm having one. Well, it was, everything was happening so fast that I wasn't even scared. But on my podcast, I talk about it, and I called it Thank You, Detroit. I should have labeled it Thank You, God and Detroit. Because that EMS got to our house in a second.
Wow, that's good.
It is in a second.
Good
Got
to hear.
me in there, and then I'm going in and out. And the next thing I know, I do remember him telling my husband she will be going to receiving, because that's where the trauma goes. Receiving took care of me. I don't remember getting out of the ambulance, but I remember there was a doctor that said, Joanne, I'm going to do a procedure on you. Sign this paper. I pick up, I sign it. He said, this is some good handwriting.
That's because you learned how to handwrite in school. They don't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore. Go ahead.
So he said, I'm going to do a procedure on you. And the next thing I know, Joe, wake up, wake up. I said, I thought you were going to do a procedure on me. He said, finish. Okay, they take me to the, now this is all at
Detroit receiving.
Where we used to talk about receiving bad.
Right.
But
you were happy with your
receiving. I went to ICU, stayed there for a day. They placed me onto the floor because I had no paralysis. And on July 4th, then the doctor came, sat there in the room and looked at me, and he smiled. I said, you're the person that did the procedure, aren't you? He said, yes. He said, I took 3 blood clots off of your brain.
Oh my God.
And then I tested your, brain to make sure the blood is flowing. He said, you are all set. While I was there on the floor, receiving was clean. There was always a nurse, an aide. When you push that button, they were there. Now, they were short-staffed, but this is July 2nd, July 4th. So, a lot of
holiday.
People,
vacation for the holiday.
But they were still there. They then sent me over the rim. I did some working out, even though I was fine, but still did it. And then I went home, and I was fine. But my stomach kept bounding. I said, it's wrong. And I said, it's got to be, I need to go to my OBGYN. Something's funny here. Now, I'm 69 years old. Why would I have a fibroid tumor? First they thought it was the size of an orange. It was a grapefruit. So they have a new way of taking out fibroids. But they couldn't do that on me because it was too big. I've never had children, so therefore that the uterus had not expanded. So they had to go through some of their old-fashioned ways. But this is bad. Oh, she is so wonderful, and it ended up that she specializes in large fibroids. Just happened, like God was working.
Right.
So she said, "I'm going to do the procedure, but either you will go home today or go home tomorrow."
So where was she going to do the procedure? Was this at Sinai-Grace?
We at Sinai-Grace.
So you back at the
We at Sinai,
war zone.
and this is where I'm starting to see something ain't right at Sinai-Grace. And I grew up near the area, but it was called.
What were you seeing that wasn't right?
Well, I thought it was right. They didn't have staff, and they were mean. So they take me to this area where that people stayed for just one day. And I said, okay, you've done surgery. And I needed to go to that bathroom. So I pushed the button because they tell you at the hospital, don't get up, push the button. I pushed the button, and there's one, and I will be saying black and white, but I really don't want to say black about these people. I want to use other word, but I'm not going to use it. All right. So she comes.
The other word begins with
Yes. So she comes, and she says, "What? What?" I said, "I have to go to the bathroom." So I guess she must have unhooked the bed, and she pointed to the bed.
go.
Now I just had surgery. I just had major surgery. My whole.
You want to make sure you're not going to fall.
You would think. So I made it to that bathroom.
On your own?
On my own, blood running, the whole thing. So I said, this ain't right here. But I said, that's okay, because I'm going home tomorrow. So the doctor comes, checks me. She says, I'm gonna let you go home. And this one aide comes in, and she was just a lovely sister. She said, I'm gonna hurry up and get you dressed so you can go home. Because what I forgot to say, this all happened Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the hospital. They brought me in on Christmas Eve. I left on Christmas Day.
Wow.
So I was happy to go home.
Can I pause for a minute? Want to do a quick commercial, and then we'll get back to your
All right.
Christmas at Sinai-Grace here.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com and see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Okay, welcome back. In case you just joined us, we've got Joanne King. She's a podcaster of Detroit Joe, and we're here talking about her experience at Sinai-Grace with some of her ailments that she was dealing with. And you were telling us right before the break about you being there Christmas Day.
the surgery was on the 15th. When I started to hemorrhage was on Christmas Eve. And the hemorrhaging, now I'm scared. We ain't talking about the little look. I'm now hemorrhaging. My husband puts me in the car. We go back to Sinai-Grace. They call in my doctor. She's right there. And they take x-rays, and she says, I want to make sure that the sutures, that they are still there. There's no problem.
And this is for your fibroids.
Yeah, because they had to take the whole uterus out.
Okay.
So she said, so therefore, I want you to stay here for one day, just so I can keep an eye on you. And then I hear someone say, her hemoglobin is 7. Yeah, your hemoglobin was supposed to be 13.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 13.
So 7. So they said, well, we're going to put you into this room until we can get you moved to somewhere else. That's what they said. The room was a storage room, and they had a divider where that looked like the staff kept their purses, because I would see people come in and go and get their purse.
It is terrible.
And they all look mad. So this is now, it's like the midnight shift on Christmas Eve or the Christmas. I need to use the bathroom, and I need water. I pushed the button, and they asked me the problem. I told them, okay, we sending somebody. Now, where that my room was, it must have been across from their break room, because I kept seeing all these workers going in there, and they'd come out laughing. So I guess that their break room was across from me. So I pushed the button, and I kept on, pushing it.
Nobody
No
shows up.
one.
No one shows up.
So then,
And what's going on right now while you're pushing the button?
while I push the button, I can hear people calling for help, and I'm not calling for help because they're right there past me.
And you're in the storage room, right?
I'm in the storage room.
Now, are there purses and stuff in that room along with you?
They're on the other side of the divider.
Lord, have mercy.
So I every time I see somebody, I would say, help, nurse. And they were like this, like they ain't heard a word. So so I could see that they were not going to service us. They got together, they said, we're going to have our little party, and we're not servicing no one. So I'm still pushing the button, and now they ain't answering.
And how long is this now since you've been pushing the button?
Oh, it's hard to say because
You were in distress.
Yeah.
So it seemed like forever for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then luckily that my one of the residents, he came through, and it looked like he was looking for me. So he finds me. And I said, they won't give me any water. They won't take me to the bathroom. And then he touches me. He says, you're cold.
You need a blood transfusion.
He says, you are cold.
Yeah.
So he runs somewhere and comes back, and he has a blanket, and he wraps me up. He said, I just spoke with the nurse, and she's going to come back to take you to the bathroom and to bring you some water. Okay, so I'm pushing a button again. I'm watching the people. They're going past like they don't even see me.
Nobody should. Nobody.
But somehow I'm able to get out of that, bed. So I get out and I said, and I didn't feel stable. So I put my hands onto onto the wall, and I just walled it all the way to that bathroom, and I walled it back. Run into an aide. She doesn't help me. She said, "You should get somebody to help you," and she kept going.
No, this is a hospital. This sounds like how they treat people in nursing facilities, because they do that all day long. This is terrible. And this is hospital in the city of Detroit on the west side. You've had surgery. You're there on an emergency basis. And they say, hey, we still gonna have our Christmas party.
Mhm.
The aide who could have bought you some water basically says, that ain't my job. I'm not doing it. There's no bedside manner whatsoever.
None, because they don't see me. They don't see anyone. Then finally, like I said, I would like to use the N word because that's what they were. All right. Now, a nurse finally comes. She has the card, and I say to her, "Well, why is it that they won't help me?" And she was white, and I was happy to see her because she wasn't. That I hate to say it, but the truth is, she looked at me and she looked sad. She said, "I'm sorry." She says, but it isn't us. There's only 2 nurses covering the whole emergency area. 2 nurses. So she takes me to the bathroom. She gives me water and she gives me crackers. And finally, that my doctor comes. So now it's Christmas Day morning. And that my doctor comes. She says, "I looked at your x-rays. You're going to be all right. And we don't want to give you any, blood. We think that you can make it." And they said that, and she told me, so you can go home. Now, my phone was with me, but it was over, and I couldn't get to it. And I said, I can't call my husband because he's had a triple bypass, and if he comes in, he's gonna have a fit. So I said, "Joe, you're gonna have to deal with this."
Right.
So what I didn't know is that my husband was taking pictures. Garbage can with all the garbage falling out.
And where were those picked? Where was that?
That in the hallway or
in the hallway,
room somewhere.
Right.
He had a picture of a curtain that had blood on it. And I'm sure that with my hands going on the wall, I probably put some blood on it. So after that, then the doctor told me that I could go home. After I got home, I wasn't angry. I was just happy that I was home. But I called up my friends and I said, I was at Sinai-Grace. They said, "What the hell are you doing over at Sinai-Grace?" Sinai-Grace, it is horrible. And I want the viewers to know that I'm not talking about Harper Grace. Harper Grace, and that the medical center where that receiving is, they are wonderful. RIM, where I did rehab, wonderful. It was just Sinai-Grace.
So in summary, first of all, they didn't have enough staff to respond appropriately. Do you feel like you got the right medical treatment there?
I got the medical because I had a good doctor. I had the best treatment, but there was no care once that the doctor leaves. Because
So no follow up, no.
You didn't have no nurse and you didn't have any aides.
And when you were going to the bathroom, obviously we all who have had surgery before know we're a little wobbly, a little shaky. Were you worried about falling when you were going to the bathroom?
I was very careful because in the back of my mind was you cannot fall. So I just somehow by doing the wall, and I did that twice. And like I said, I got no help whatsoever. And when I talked to my friends, they said Sinai-Grace is a horrible place. I said, well, the way I got there, it was because of my, doctors. So now, to see my cancer doctor, I got to go way out. But I was talking to my two OHEAD doctors, and I said, what's up with Sinai-Grace? He said it is messed up, and it's been messed up for over 20 years that we've been fighting the fight to try to get Sinai together. Now, Sinai is separating the black patient from the black doctor. That is number one. Notice that the black doctors, they are now gone. My doctor said I can count the black doctors on just one hand.
So they have gentrification going on in the Sinai-Grace Hospital?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
And one of my doctors, who is a brown man, he says, even though he doesn't work there because he's very, very good, sometimes they will call him in. He said that he will, go in and they act like they don't even see him. He's trying to find his patients. He said they are just plain mean.
And who was plain mean? The hospital.
The hospital.
The hospital staff.
And
do they think it's a racism that's going? What
are
behind?
The doctors feel, and I felt it too, is that Sinai-Grace doesn't really want to be there. They don't want to be in that part of the city. So instead of them closing up, they have decided to give us half-assed treatment.
Sort of strangle it till no one wants to go there anymore.
Yeah. Now I have good insurance, so I can go somewhere else.
Right.
But a lot of people can't.
Right.
A lot of people can't.
We're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to give your summation or closing arguments, and so we'll be right back.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com and see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
And
that's what
So yeah,
we are back.
yeah, we're back. So
We're back.
what I was say before we got on, what's interesting about this story, what's interesting about what you said, they said that they don't want Sinai-Grace, is that a few years back, I mean, I know within the last 10 years, they poured a whole lot of money into Sinai-Grace. DMC poured a whole lot of money into that hospital, trying to bring it up to par. They refaced it, the whole thing. So you spend all this money and then you say, hey, we don't want it anymore. And we can't really say it out loud, but we'll do it in how we treat people. You have people working there who clearly don't want to be there. I know that you do a story about how all these nurses left Sinai-Grace.
They had a lot. They had
a lot of them quit. I mean, this is just insane. Because the question becomes, well, what other hospital do you have in the neighborhood?
And that
in the city of Detroit, what other hospital do you have?
And that is the problem. And what Adolph said was exactly right. If you go there, you might as well go over there to Swanson, because if you don't have anybody to fight for you or to stay there with you, because one of my doctors said that somehow his wife ended up there, so he just stayed there with her.
Right.
And so my last thing said, I would say, don't go to Sinai-Grace if there's anything that you can do.
So to do what they say, that they want to close it down, so you want people to help them close it down.
Yes, you do not, want to say bye. And for them to close up the cancer center.
It's awful.
So that means those cancer patients have to go downtown.
So do you really think the answer is don't go there, or bring attention to the fact and raise hell about the quality of care that is not given to people, what they're doing, and how they spend all this money to put into this hospital in the neighborhood, and they're doing nothing about it? Do you really think the answer is don't go?
The answer is close the bitch down.
Well, it's like, I mean, you would hope the thing they would respond. You're not the first. We've been hearing stories about Sinai-Grace for years now. When we were doing Deadline Detroit, we were doing a lot of Beaumont stories, but we were getting a lot of stories being told, and we wanted to delve into what was going on at Sinai-Grace. And I did start to talk to one doctor there. We had a lot of problems there. But hospitals are, they shouldn't just be about money. Obviously, it's more profitable to operate out of Commerce Township than it is to operate in the city of Detroit. But hospitals have some obligation to, care. We've lost our way with healthcare in this country, period, where people are paying ridiculous amounts of money, where healthcare is not what it should be. My father would go to, Henry Ford, and I go to Henry Ford for all my stuff, usually on the boulevard. But my father, elderly, and sometimes he was admitted in the hospital. I would stay overnight because his machine would be like beeping at like 1 in the morning, and the nurses station, they'd all be sitting around, and I would come out and I'd say, excuse me, I said the machine is beeping, and they'd act like I was intruding. They were sitting around, and they'd go, all right, we'll be there. Well, 10 minutes later, I'd be like, hey,
what hospitals do we have in the city? You have the DMC, you have all those hospitals in the hub in the Wayne State University area. Do you have a hospital?
West Bloomfield.
And you have St. John's on the east side, and then you have Sinai-Grace. There's nothing in Henry Ford.
It used to be,
but that's crazy.
It used to be all the hospitals in Detroit, but they want to be in Novi, they want to be in Northville, they want to be in Ann Arbor, Brighton. They build these real nice buildings. Right. You drive down Telegraph, you see Beaumont. Look better than the Beaumont that's in Royal Oak. Listen, that's where they want to be, and they don't want to be inside the city in Detroit.
And we're also saying, look, a lot of these hospitals are, instead of using doctors to deal with a lot of issues. They're using physician's
A
assistants.
lot of
And, when you leave now, you get checked out, or for some serious issues, a physician assistant sometimes checks you out.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna knock them because
They're good.
they
Don't-
real
don't-
good.
don't-
Because sometimes they better than the doctor. Because
They're more conscientious.
There's no question about it. Joanne, in closing,
She already said
I
close
know,
the beach.
she want to close the bitch down.
Close the beat down.
She from my era. She from my era, right, Allan? Yeah, there's no question. We're gonna
But
continue.
here's Kenneth Reed. I'll just read the one comment. He says, when the pandemic was going strong, they were stacking body bags in lounges
Nobody
or
did shit.
refrigerated trucks. I wouldn't go to Sinai Slaughterhouse, not even at gunpoint.
And no question.
So, I mean, the message is for hospitals, we need better service. You need to be aware of what's going on. And when we talk about even trash in the hallway, we've seen that in hospitals in the suburbs, the same thing, where it's that people are not.
But hospitals been moving out of Detroit. Providence moved out of Detroit. St. Joe's moved out of Detroit. All these hospitals, Creighton, all of them
But
used to be
here's the
inside
problem,
the
though.
city of Detroit, and they just moved.
But here's the problem, though. You talk about the resurgence of the city, and people are moving from the burbs into the city. You got to have some place for people to go if they get sick. They're not going to have. They can't drive all the way out to Commerce and all these other places. So you're going to have some place for these people to go.
Right.
So for them to purposely say, "Hey, they don't want this place here," it's a problem.
No question.
It's a problem.
In closing, Joanne, how's your health?
I'm not there yet, but every week I'm feeling a little bit strong.
Okay, good.
That's awesome.
That's good, and we're glad that you came. And you still doing your podcast?
Yes,
Okay.
and I would love to have you on since you're running for office.
Okay, I would love to come on.
I don't think I can vote for her.
And there's the podcast, Detroit Joe. You can get on any
Make sure we
platforms.
change, contact
There's
information.
no question. And one last thing. So my guy from Montford passed away. When?
Oh,
Say
Lord.
his name.
Maurice Hunter,
Yes.
and that we used to call him Mo.
He
So
used to have a big fro.
yeah,
He was great at tennis.
oh, I mean he was superior, and he died maybe last year.
Okay.
Was
Okay.
sometimes last year, and we were in shock.
So you had your 50th high school reunion?
Yes.
Did you go?
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as big because a lot of people gone. That's hard to stomach
Yeah.
that you are at the time when people are leaving. I just don't want to leave with them now. And
I'm gonna hang out a
yeah,
lot.
so,
Yeah.
Well, like I said, if I get sick or something happened to me and I'm close to Sinai-Grace, take me to Linda Swanson. That's my girl. O'Neill was my guy. He's no longer with us. Take me to Swanson because, hey, listen, they're going to kill you over there.
you know, I almost felt that. The only thing I said is going to keep me here is that my husband's coming. So I knew that with him coming soon, that I
He went to Montford?
What?
Your husband?
No, he Cass.
He went to Cass. He was that bullshit guy.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're going to thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
And be back.
Thank you.
And
You
we're
all
gonna-
have an excellent
And we're going to
podcast.
take a break and we're going to come back and
All
we're going
right.
to talk about Lonnie
Over
Bates.
there, Robert
man.
Brown, our man Robert
Yeah,
Brown
right.
in Florida, I believe. He's
Yeah.
down there. All right.
No, but he's in Denver.
Oh, he's in Denver. Okay.
Visiting.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your garden supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Okay, we are back, and this time we've got Robert Brown. Robert, can you hear us? Robert? Okay.
You're on mute, Robert.
Can't hear you. Are you, can you hear us? Let's see what.
We have a hearing problem with Robert.
Let's see here.
But anyway, while you're
right.
trying to get there, you can't blame Henry for this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can blame anyone, but
Why
Robert,
he in it? He
Robert,
don't have nothing to do with. Why did you put Henry in it?
Because
He
Henry
don't have
need to
nothing to
be.
do with my
Can
Henry.
you hear
Henry
us?
need to be in it. He need to be. That's my guy.
Hey,
hear us?
Teresa. Hey,
we
Jim.
can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Well, anyway, Lonnie Bates, former council member, former school board member, Bates Academy named after Lonnie Bates. And listen, the guy, he could be a real asshole. I butted heads with him.
Can
But-
you be one?
Yeah,
Okay.
But you know what? If you're running for office, you need to be seen, not heard.
Robert, do you want to take out your
What a
earphones,
sexist
maybe?
comment to make.
You know I love you.
What's such a sexist
Let's
comment
see.
to make?
You know I love you.
You might as well tell me to go in the kitchen.
Can you
Get
make
out
some?
of here.
Can you make a
Absolutely.
good
I'm an
breakfast?
excellent cook.
Okay.
Yeah.
You make a good
I
breakfast.
don't know what's going on with Robert.
Well, he need
It looks like
to
an
sign
X-ray
off.
from a hospital.
He need to sign off and come back on.
Yeah, maybe you should try to sign on and come back in, Robert. Can you take your earphones out? Oh, there we go.
Okay, we're gonna
All right.
come back and sign back in.
Okay.
Yeah. You got a lot of hits on Lonnie Bates.
Yes. You know, we actually, let me see if I can get a picture of him up here.
Yeah, Lonnie was a good guy. And Lonnie was a bad guy. Lonnie was just
Well,
like
tell us a little
everybody
bit
else.
tell a little history here of Lonnie, I can also help you from there.
Listen, Lonnie was straight and no chaser. And he never backed down from a fight. You know, he's one of those guys. If he was with you, he with you. If he was against you, he gonna try to hit you in the kneecaps with a baseball bat or whatever he's gonna
And there's
do.
a picture of Lonnie.
Yeah.
From the
Lonnie Bates. You know.
Well, let's tell a little history. Is that Lonnie? He went to school here. He was a great athlete.
Yeah.
He got a scholarship to go to Ferris. He was playing baseball, football, running track. He had some issue at Ferris. There was some issue over sports, and he went down to Alabama.
Well, he was at a time where, he had some issue because he was outspoken. Shit, back in that era.
Allan, can you hear me now?
Yes. All right. We've got Robert Brown, who's an attorney, went to Oak Park High with Adolph and I, and knows.
Poor thing. You went to school with them. I
And
feel so
knows-
bad for you.
He knows
I do.
Lonnie.
I really feel bad for
He
you.
knows Lonnie Bates. But go ahead.
Lonnie was your guy, right, Robert?
Well, Lonnie and I were friends for 50 years, and
And how
we
did
actually
that-
met.
Oh,
We met through slow pitch softball, of all things. Lonnie had a team, and it really was very typical of Lonnie. This was an example of the kind of person he was. In the time, if I don't know how much of your audience knows or remembers it, slow pitch softball was a big deal in the Detroit area. In fact, for back 50 years ago. Mike Ilitch's first endeavor into sports was sponsoring a men's slow pitch softball team,
I
national team.
remember that.
Okay.
Then he had
So-
some of the Tigers.
Well, that was later on. That was the pro team. But even before the pro league, he sponsored a championship team. Okay. Now, slow pitch softball was big in the city of Detroit too, Palmer Park and Jane Field and Hammerberg. But like many, many things in Detroit, good black softball players were never never played for white teams. White teams never picked them up. There was a guy right before Lonnie, Walt Owens, who was a coach at Denby, went to Northern Illinois. His son went to Michigan. Mel, he had his own team because white teams would not pick him up, and those teams went out of town. They had good uniforms. They did all that. Well, black players couldn't do that, and Lonnie put together a softball team of young guys, and he wanted to make sure they were the best dressed. He wanted to make sure they got out of town, and they had to do fundraisers and cabarets and all that. But it was very important for him he was a competitive guy. He was, played baseball at Alabama State as a catcher, he marched in the civil rights and did all that. But he wanted to make sure that these guys who a lot of them hadn't been on a plane before, were exposed to different things, were seen as, guys to be treated with respect. And that was him. And that's how we met. Now, to be honest, you mentioned the other part. We met the team I was with. I didn't play. Don't ever think of that. I was coach, scorekeeper. And we got into a big brawl at Jane Field. That was the first time I met Lonnie. And Charlie Williams, who was became deputy mayor, deputy executive director of Wayne County. He says, I said, who's that guy over there? He says, you know what? He can get a little wild, but he really does a lot for the community. And Charlie was working in the recreation department at the time. And he introduced me to Lonnie. We went out to lunch and we just became very close friends. And,
Describe him, his personality. How was he with you? Your friendship and his personality. Okay, he's frozen here. He froze. Oh,
and
here we go.
he put a lot of time and effort to get to Bates Academy. I can't tell you the amount of time that he would spend trying to figure out what's the best way to educate young people in Detroit who have challenged backgrounds, who have challenged home life, and how do we provide a better experience, a better educational experience. And that was his overriding. That's what he did.
Legacy? Is that his legacy?
That to me, that is definitely his legacy. The other thing, even in the recreation department, he was the one that really spearheaded getting the ball fields at Belle Isle. I remember I was there. Coleman Young came and they dedicated it. But I was there at the time, and that was his deal. A decade before Major League Baseball had their RBI initiative, Lonnie, through the recreation department, really was trying to work with the Tigers to invest money into baseball fields in Detroit for young people and to build up baseball in Detroit, because a lot of those fields had gone into great disrepair with the recreation department didn't have the money to really keep a lot of the fields up, and a lot of kids didn't have the chance to play baseball. So he was working with the Tigers on that. So that really was his overriding passion. Now, again, people have, most people I know have good, flaws. They have this, they have that. But I can tell you from a personal experience, Lonnie was a tremendous friend to me. When I wanted to, when I was practicing law and I said, I'd really like to do something else. I'd like to do something that would benefit the community. I wanted to go to New Detroit. He picked up the phone and talked to Bill Beckham, who, frankly, if Bill hadn't died, and Bill was one of the great leaders of Detroit and would have been mayor and so on, and he pushed him for me. So Lonnie, I was at his wedding, he was at my wedding, and he was quite a special guy.
Let me just say
I want to say this, and then I go to you.
I want to give a little perspective.
With the recreation department, Lonnie was controversial. They had another person in the recreation department, Donald Lopsinger.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
yeah,
man, that must have been something.
Yeah.
Did you know Donald Lopsinger?
I know
Breakthrough.
him, and
Yeah. Well, let me just say,
either one of
hey,
those.
Robert, let me just put a little context here why we're even talking. Lonnie passed away several days ago. He was 84 years old. He was with the school board for I think 27, 28 years. He was at the recreation department for a lot over 20 years. And he also was a Detroit City Council member, and he just recently passed away a few days ago. And so just for those who don't know, Lonnie Bates.
Well, Lonnie Bates, that recreation department was something else. Donald Lopsinger, he was, they were outspoken. Those was some
Tell
great
us about
times.
Donald Lopsinger. What do
Yeah,
you?
breakthrough, man. He every black person he talked to was a communist, you know.
Well,
But Coleman Young tried to get rid of him.
yep,
But he couldn't
Yep.
get rid of him. He was
Yep.
civil servant. And
Exactly.
He retired from the city. He
Every black
retired.
person was
He
a cop.
retired. He retired from the city. I'm gonna tell you, those were some great times where we had people from the left, right, center, wherever they came from. They spoke their minds, and people, you know, whether you agree with them or not, nobody was trying to cancel nobody out. Nobody was saying, "Oh, you woke," and you all this other bullshit that they out there. And I called Allan because I talked to some friends of Alani. I talked to you, Robert,
Yep.
and I tried to call some of the media and say, you know, Lonnie Bates, you know, it's a news story. I'm a former journalist, and you know, I used to write obituaries. And I said, that's a news story. They didn't want to write it.
I was shocked
They
that wasn't.
did
There's nothing
not
in
want
there.
to write
Yeah.
it. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
They
it
didn't
is.
want to write it. Do you think they didn't want to write it? Cancel culture.
They want to cancel him out. Not like
they
he
want to
didn't
cancel,
exist.
they just didn't know he. I mean,
Both.
we have
Both.
a younger generation. You have
Both.
people like you have people at the TV stations who come from different.
Listen,
cities.
I was a reporter. You was a reporter.
Yeah.
We on the streets,
Well,
and I learned about who's who. I can go in the community and say I went to Hamtramck and I had to write something about Hamtramck. I'm gonna pull up some background on the subject that I was dealing with.
So let me
These
ask
folks
you this.
they don't want to even.
So when you contact the news outlets, what was the response?
No response.
Oh,
No
Except
response.
Deadline Detroit.
Except
Oh.
deadline.
Well,
Yeah.
I knew Lonnie Bates. I mean, he's part of Detroit history. I can say here in the story, I quote Reverend Holly, he said, Lonnie and I marched together down south. We have both gone to church and jail together for participating in demonstration to establish the right of poor and African American citizens. They were down south together. And then Lonnie became a controversial figure. He was on the city council. He was criticized in the media for flying first class. And he said,
all that shit. I asked the late Mayor Young. I said, you know what? Why you support Lonnie? He said, because he the rascal we know. And that said it all for me.
and here,
Because he the rascal we know. He said he's a rascal. And the mayor saw a lot of himself in Lonnie. You know, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed
what's
bag.
wrong with it?
When the Free Press wrote an article talking about taking his name off the school, take it off in cash. Take it off of all these folks. We can always find something that we can take the name off.
well, here's what he said when he was asked about when he asked about first class travel. He says, "I didn't create first class travel. The white people created first class travel." And when he asked about spending a taxpayer money on expensive trips and meals, he said, "I have an interest in higher learning to deal with races like you in the free class. You don't want to educate my children."
Get Orville White, get the first upgrade.
Was that deflection or what?
Right.
Deflection. Okay.
So
Robert,
and Robert.
Yep.
Robert,
Yep, I'm here.
walking. I can hear the noise.
I'm walking.
In closing, Robert.
Birthday party.
Okay.
All right, have
Okay.
a good time.
Thanks,
All right,
Robert.
Robert. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks so
And
much.
we're gonna take
But just to add to what the critical part was that while he did a lot of stuff, he advocated for the children in the city of Detroit. He also was convicted in, I believe, 2006 of hiring.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Yes.
And listen, man, and I'm not defending, but when he had some folks working for him, these were students that were in the university, and they wasn't here. They was at the university, and they was getting paid by the city. But he wasn't the only city council person that had these college students working for him. They cherry picked him, and they got it. you know, U.S. attorneys or whoever else, they could have got several of them, but they had prominent figures, kids working for them, so they never touched them. So yeah, he got a raw deal because if you're gonna do it for one, you're gonna do it for all.
They should have gotten them all.
Yeah, but they didn't get them all. And I'm not even gonna say the name. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back with the
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasurer.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasurer.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
no, I'm not.
All right, we are back.
We got the man, Chief of Police, the Detroit, Chief James White. How you doing?
Good, sir. How you doing today?
Listen, it's great that you can come, and I know your busy schedule. How do you do it? I want to ask you this question. I would be stressed out, depressed every time, you know, you at crime scenes, you at funerals, man.
You get blamed for everything.
Let me say this: it comes with the territory.
Right.
It's not an easy job. I knew that. I've been doing this for 28 years. I was an assistant chief for a number of years. You know, it's a lot of work, and I'm not gonna, you know, sidestep that issue at all. It's a lot of work, a lot of commitment, but the community's worth it.
How was last year? Listen, how was the crime stats, et cetera? You know.
Yeah, I mean, we everything we do, we use data. We run a strategy. We run plans. I mean, I'm a person that's somewhat obsessed with data. We know that we've got about 630,000 people in the city of Detroit. We know that between Thursdays and Sundays, we get about another 150 that visit, particularly in the downtown area. And we know we got about another 200,000 that probably didn't fill out a census, and somewhere between mama's basement and auntie's couch. So that's a lot of people. And so we have to police strategically and smart. We started off the year early April with our spring deployment. What did not go well. We had a number of homicides, particularly in the downtown area. So we flipped immediately to our midsummer deployment, and we were able to really bring the crime down. We closed out the year with significant crime reductions in homicides, non-fatal shootings, rapes, and robberies. So we did pretty well.
Allan.
You had lower. It was the lowest since I think 1966. The homicide rate, carjackings are down. What do you attribute all that to? Well, let me say this first: the community. I mean, you can't do this job without respect for the community and the fact that they are just tired of violent crime. I mean, they're just sick of it. I mean, I hear from them all the time. And so you have to have trust with the community so that you can police the community. We had a strategy. And I'm going to tell you, green light. You know, we're seeing people make different decisions at gas stations and businesses with green lights. In fact, when you say different decisions, what do you mean by that? So we were seeing a significant uptick in carjackings at gas stations before green light. We were seeing shootings at gas stations. We dropped 34% in carjackings, and particularly at those areas, gas stations that had green lights, the numbers were significant. And we're also seeing people making decisions to settle their beefs on freeways because they know there's no green lights on the freeway. So, and with those gas stations oftentimes being near freeway entry points, we're seeing shootings uptick on the freeways, drop at the gas stations. The other thing I attributed to is just the officers. You know, we were able to get a significant raise for our officers, on average $10,000 for each officer.
So our attrition rate slowed. We were losing roughly 30 officers a month.
Wow.
And that was between retirements, going to other jobs, and some a smaller number for discipline. Our attrition rate right now is under 10, and half of those are retirements. Some are discipline. But so we're able now to hire and keep officers and put them on the streets.
On the freeway, when you mentioned the freeway, I mean, I live in the city. Some Friday or Saturday night, sometimes I'm in the burbs. I come back and I'll take Woodward because there's people speeding on the lodge. Sometimes they're going, so it's scary. I mean, I've always been flipped a couple times on the lodge. Is there something that's a concern
Or is
of
that
the
the state
department?
police thing?
It's a state, and I'm not blaming the state. I mean, it's their area of patrol. I mean, we can patrol the freeways. I'd much rather have my officers in the neighborhoods. I'd much rather have them going up and down the veins of our community and leave the freeway enforcement to the state police. But if we see something, we'll go down on the ditch and do something.
Chief White, you talked about the green light. I noticed because I go to Whole Foods quite a bit right there. There's this big contraption there, and I have a feeling that it's hooked up with the Detroit police because I know, I've complained about going over there. You have people harassing people, asking for money, people breaking into cars and that kind of thing. And I noticed maybe about 6 months ago, there's something that sits right there in the parking lot. And I have a feeling that it has something to do with the Detroit Police Department. Am I right?
You are not. I know exactly what you're talking about. We've been at this before. It's a system that they put in. There's one also at the CVS across the street or right down the street. But we're able to get information from it when someone does do something improper or illegal. That's a camera system, and they share the information with us. But it's not the green light. But it has had a remarkable impact in that area. And so when something happens, they give us, if they need to, they can share the information with us, and we're able to, apprehend the appropriate.
What's your wish list as far as more officers on the street? When I first started working for Coleman Young back in the 80s, you had a certain amount of police officers. Now, I'm sure you're understaffed right now.
Well, here's to answer your question. My wish list is we're going to fill every open position we got. We got about 150 open right now, which is the lowest we've had in years. Again, that's the impact of the raise. But in Europe era, there were 5,000 police officers on the street.
Yes.
We don't have 5,000 police officers right now. But we're going to be getting an additional 200, hopefully in the fall. There's some state dollars coming our way for that. And then we also got an additional $3 million where we're going to be putting more mental health co-responders. Because now mental health, the mental health crisis is smack dab in our lap too, on top of everything else. And we've got 20 officers that's doing that now. We're going to add some more to that. And then our neighborhood police officers, we're adding 15 to that. So my wish list is I'm bringing back this summer beat assignments in neighborhoods. I want to see officers walking the street and getting to know our community.
And let me ask you this, a couple of things. As far two questions here. One is residency, if it matters that some of the officers are living in the suburbs or whatever. And the other one is that the previous chief had said it's a good idea that residents have guns. How do you feel about that? It's kind of a controversial.
So I'll start with the first question. Residency, they passed a state law in 99, I think it was.
Right.
The accountability piece for me is that you are committed to this community. State law says I can't tell you where to live. But I can certainly measure your performance and insist on your accountability to this community. With regards to the gun thing, he and I see that differently. I just see so many young kids using guns to settle simple beefs. I see irresponsible gun ownership, too many babies getting their hands on guns and shooting themselves. I'd much rather have a level of safety in this community that everybody can participate in and feel good about. And those who choose to buy a gun responsibly and secure it responsibly, more power to you. But I'm just not a person that's going to tell everybody to harm themselves. It's just not who I am.
Do you? Is the reserve still around?
Yes, they are.
How do you utilize them?
Everywhere we can. They drive around in our hotspot areas. They walk the Riverwalk. They go to our games. Detroit is busy, and I never thought I would see it at this level. We've got big city problems in terms of events and venues, and we did the Taylor Swift, the Beyonce, Lions. They did their thing this year. We were busy every weekend, and so we use them for all of those types of things in crowd control.
Let me ask you, in DC, they had a program where some landlords were offering discounts on rents or actual free housing to live in certain neighborhoods. Is it something that the department's ever considered to entice people to live in the city?
So years ago, they had a similar program through HUD where an officer could buy a house inexpensively and live in the city. It went well for a while. We've got a lot of officers on their own moving back with all of the development that you see, the apartments, and it's quite interesting to see it happening. So I just don't see residency as a primary issue to our crime reduction.
So how are you working with the other agencies, sheriff's department, state police, Wayne State, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question, and let me tell you, crime has no borders, and I'm not a person that's going to sit here and worry about who gets the credit. I just want to keep the city safe. So we have a great relationship with the county sheriff. We have a great relationship with MSP. And MSP last year with our drag racing and drifting, these kids spinning in neighborhoods, they brought their helicopters and put them up and notified us where they were because we want to chase them through the neighborhoods. And I have asked the colonel to bring that same program back this year. He has said yes, and now we're going to have 3 helicopters up all over the city looking for those types of actions. And we're also going to be flying over our parks because we see a lot of things in our neighborhood parks that spark up pretty quickly.
But I have one question that I go to you.
I did notice this summer because I live downtown that on the weekends, I'm doing the Riverwalk and they have these, I want to call them detectors.
Evolve.
Evolve. Right, evolve. So is that something that you guys are going to continue to do? And is it only a seasonal thing? Because it's busy on the Riverwalk all year because I'm on the Riverwalk all the time.
So am I. And I'm going to tell you, it is not seasonal. It's based on crowd density.
Okay.
We use it as a crowd tool, and if you are legally carrying a gun, okay, more power to you. Have your CPL on you and have it secured. If you are illegally carrying a gun, I would advise you not to.
If you're illegally carrying a gun and get caught, call Vanessa. Call Vanessa. Attorney Moss.
Like Greektown. Greektown always sort of blows up at some point, and then what do you have planned for Greektown in the warmer months ahead?
Same deployment. So the only thing you're going to see different this year, as I started to talk about, was we have our spring deployment, which we know strategically is a certain number of officers in certain areas. We can't do spring. We got to go right to midsummer. But the people, the number of people we get on the weekends, I suspect next weekend we're going to have an uptick because it's going to be 50 degrees.
Right.
So you're going to see the same deployment. I'm sure you saw it last year. Officers on foot. Those who are coming down to enjoy themselves and have a good time, come on down and have a good time. Those with nefarious intent, don't come down. Don't come to our parks. Don't bring your guns. Don't do it.
Tell us about drugs in the city. We don't really hear, we don't see a lot of reporting on it to get an understanding of what are we seeing out on the street these days in terms of, is it prescription drugs? Is it fentanyl? What type of stuff are you seeing out there?
Fentanyl. It is the single most dangerous drug I've ever seen in my 28 years. Yeah. And we're pushing a campaign that we're going to be launching here in a few weeks to push the message down. I don't know why the alarms aren't sounding around this country of what we're seeing with fentanyl. The impact is immediate. We've got people that are basically taking the drug and they're dead in seconds. And the numbers are startling, and it crosses all demographics.
Worse than crack.
Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, much worse than crack. Much worse.
And how is it being distributed on corners, or how is it being sold these days?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a hand-to-hand drug transaction. We're seeing it at a much higher level. we're seeing, we just actually did a raid. You're going to be seeing on the news in a couple of days where we're able to get quite a bit of it off the street. But you're seeing it at a much higher level, much more of a business kind of model, how it's being moved. And again, it crosses all demographic. This isn't the quote unquote inner city hand-to-hand drug dealers of the 80s and the 90s. This is much more sophisticated. And we're seeing people from all walks of life.
And is it coming in just pure form, or is it being mixed with other?
Another great question. So we're seeing it both ways. Primarily when you see it where people are immediately expiring, it's being mixed with other drugs.
Such as
cocaine. And we're also seeing in its rawest form being cut so many times and mixed with horse tranquilizers. And that's when
They still doing it.
it's killing people.
great. How many deaths are we seeing here in the city of Detroit?
We had, I don't have the numbers. I don't have my public information so I can get them to you, but we were averaging for a while about one a month last year, but that number went up. And but I don't have the actual numbers with me.
Well, I got a pet peeve.
Okay.
Police agencies from across 8 Mile Road, I can go down 7 Mile and you see Ferndale is on McNichols giving somebody a ticket. You know, I Hazel Park, Warren, and every time I ask this question, they say, well, you got an area where the police, I don't ever see Detroit police across 8 Mile Road doing anything, but I'm scared to even go over there at times because you can be driving in Detroit and here come a Ferndale cop. I got a ticket one time. I'm like, I'm not even in Ferndale. And you know what? So I had to pay.
So let me say this, Adolph.
Do you ever get those complaints?
I don't think you got to be scared to go in. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation for another.
Right. That's big old
but-
mouth of his. That's right.
Big old action too, not just mine.
Right. Right.
But you know, the idea is if the infraction is initiated in your city and it carries over,
Right.
you can go across.
But you
into
could be
the-
driving on 8 Mile on the Detroit side and they looking at you over here and then blue, you know.
And if that happens, I've had some incidents with citizens that complained, and we've reached out. If you want to give me some specific time and dates, I'll reach out to my counterpart over in Ferndale.
Yeah. Anyway,
We have somebody who's saying, I would like to help with that campaign. Please contact me. I assume she's talking about the fentanyl, fighting fentanyl. And
Yeah.
What can residents do to help fight this problem?
Yeah, I tell you, the information is pushing information out. We're going to work with our health department to get the information out. And we're going to also be working with the DEA. But this is, I'm telling you, it's much bigger than you know. And there's not a lot of information being pushed out to the community. But this is something you can't talk to two people now that hasn't had either a family experience or know someone who has lost someone to fentanyl.
Back in the days of 80s, 90s, we had all these drug gangs, these big drug gangs. Are we still seeing, are they part of an organization? And are the Mexican cartels involved in some of the supplying here?
So at a very high level, we know that it's organized. When you get it down to the street level, like I said, it's more of a business group that's moving the dope. What we're seeing though, another drug, surprisingly, that we're seeing still in the illegal trade is marijuana. And I thought, erroneously, that once it was legalized, that you would see a drop off. But now you're seeing it. We're still seeing high levels of illegal marijuana being pushed.
Why?
I think the potency.
Right.
yeah, because they got
Lack of regulation.
They got the
And they're competing against the medical marijuana groups, and so you still have some problems. I won't say gangs, but you certainly have groups that are still competing for that trade.
What about the gang squad?
We got a gang intel now.
Okay.
You come to the
You
gang
don't
squad.
call it the gang squad.
No, it's gang intel because what we're trying to do, and they both work. But what we found now is we've got a lot of copycat gangs We've got a lot of kids between the ages of 15 and 18 that are trying to replicate what their brothers and dads have done. And so we're trying to disrupt them early, and we use ceasefire and gang intel to do that, to just get them off of that track. Because oftentimes what we're finding, particularly with the younger kids in middle school and freshmen in high school, is they're just trying to belong to anything. And so we're using that ceasefire model, and it's paying dividends, but not moving as fast as I would like.
Well, the Deputy Mayor Todd Madison, who's a former police officer, said that y'all done had grants, y'all got groups, New Era, etc., that's working out there to,
CBI.
Yes.
And it's working. Early returns are really, really positive. Recognizing that you can't lock everybody up and rush your way out of crime. What he's got with this CVI, it's Community Violence Interrupters, is civilian groups that are trying to wrap their arms around young folks and give them some alternatives to violence before they got to engage us. And I like that path. I like this dual approach. We've got the U.S. Attorney, who is from this area, graduate of Cass Tech, very, very dynamic woman. And Dawn Eisen, and she is working with us with a program called One Detroit, and it's going to be really awesome. She does peaceniks, East and West Side, 8th and 9th precinct, two most violent precincts in the city. So we've got a lot of synergy going right now with a lot of alternatives to crime. She's doing things like bringing GED programs to the park on that weekend and giving folks alternatives to violence and giving them counseling and things such as that, job opportunities, so that they won't have to engage with police department.
Let me ask you about during the defunding the police, there were all these arguments about maybe resources to be used differently. Are you, in terms of responding to domestic disputes, are you doing that any differently? Like some people say the police should bring a social worker along or something like that. Is there something that's changed, or you haven't had a lot of shooting incidents like some departments have in terms of domestic disputes? Are you doing something different or just doing what you've been doing?
No, we do a lot different. So, we had a couple years ago, we had two very critical mental health runs that ended up being fatalities.
Right.
I'm a licensed mental health therapist, so certainly I'm very sensitive to our mental health crisis in our community. I think it drives a lot of our violence. And so we implemented a mental health co-response where we now respond to those runs with a mental health professional on the car to help us. But we're still responding to thousands of runs. I think last year it was 10,000 runs that we handled. So it's a crisis. So yes, we're doing something different. When we talk about domestic, we have social workers in precincts to help with the domestic issue, but it is extraordinarily complex. And we've had a number already this year of domestic violence assaults, as well as a couple of domestic violence homicides. So that's a heavy lift, and we're going to continue to work. Actually, working with my partner in Southfield, who has a real strong program on domestic violence, Chief Alvin Barron, and I'm going to learn from him some of the things that he's doing as well.
So what about school programs? Are y'all involved in the school? Because I know, as we were growing up, police used to come, firemen, everybody, we always.
Remember the blue kids?
Yes.
The band.
So what kind of program do you have that you can expose these young folks to the positive aspect of policing?
Yeah, we have Brotherhood and Sisterhood, which is basically a program where we bring in young people and talk to them about the police department, demystifying the police. There's some young people that just have a very unique perspective of policing. They've had some bad experience with policing. And so we try to break down that wall. We meet with them. We bring them to the precinct. We break bread with them. We expose them to a number of different programs. We still have our junior police cadets. Our MPOs go out and talk at schools. I go out and try to talk at schools when time permits. So we're doing a lot of different things to try to kind of change that narrative with the young people about policing. And some of it's working. I'm not ready to declare victory just yet, but it's going the right direction.
What y'all gonna do? What y'all gonna do with that building in Greektown, 1300 Bowman? That is a
beautiful building.
Yeah, yes.
And legendary.
I don't think we own it anymore.
No,
I got to check
Jay
on that.
Gilbert owns that building.
Yeah,
And
that's
Van
just
Gogh
too
owns it.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that's
own it.
too
I
bad.
love
They
that
don't own
building.
it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. The police chief, when crime's up, the police chief gets blamed, but we know that it's more of a holistic thing about education, economics. How do you get, is there a way for you to get involved in more of a holistic approach to dealing with multi-prong as opposed to just fighting crime straight up?
You know, you're right. When crime is up, police chief gets blamed, and I get it. Comes with it, and certainly maybe it should, right? I mean, but I think the impact of the police is to serve the citizens, respond to crime, and in large part, try to prevent crime. But I really believe that crime prevention starts with the community. Cooperation with police, having a standard of just basically having crime be unacceptable.
How have you dealt with the culture? Every major department deals with the snitch culture and how to convince people to cooperate. Have you made any headway in that area, or is that still just always a nagging problem that you have to deal with?
I don't think there's any more of a misconception about community than this no snitch rule. That thing is like a hashtag where people kind of took off with it. Let me tell you something. We couldn't have half of the success we've had without the community telling us who's doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not public about it, but we get
Right.
cooperation from police. The so-called no snitch rule is not something that's impactful.
It's not.
No.
And you had a final word, Chief.
Well, I got
What's
final word.
happening? Yeah, final word.
Super excited about what we're approaching. I mean, historic crime lows in 2023, not celebrating or declaring victory against crime. But certainly we look at what worked and we're going to deploy it this year again. We're looking to we can't compete against 1966 anymore. We're competing against ourselves. And so we're looking forward to a successful and safe spring, summer in 2024.
Okay, we're going to have you back.
Yeah, that's great.
And thank you,
Yeah.
Chief James White. This is Adolph Mongo, Detroit in black and white. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week.
Listen, and if you're watching, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. You can see us on all platforms: Facebook Live, X, and DetroitInBlackAndWhite.com. You can watch all of our episodes. We're here every Saturday on the corner of Michigan Avenue in Trumbull at the Shades. Thank you so much, and happy Black History Month. Next week, we'll be able to do our Black History tributes.
Thank you.